All right, so today I want to go over a MacBook board that has no backlight, and I want to talk a little bit about the mentality that you should be having when you're looking to solve a problem and the wrong mentality to have when it is that you're looking to solve a problem. And I'm going to be going over that a little bit here. So, one of the things that I read on a forum where I had posted a couple of things that somebody should try if they have no backlight, I'm just going to go and find it over here. It's on one of my favorite forums that you'll find. I'll let you guys here take a guess what forum I'm talking about. It's hi, I have a MacBook Air with the LCD working fine, but the backlight doesn't turn on. Can anybody tell me where to buy these exact parts? So I give about a 2-page post on what to measure, how to figure out what's wrong with it. And I said that you are pretty much not going to get anywhere by replacing random things with no knowledge of how a circuit works. You need to measure. And then I get this as a reply. I do my fix the way I want. If I want to repair all the pieces, I will. Last time I checked, the question was where can I find the piece for sale, and not a way of knowing what's really wrong. So you're more interested in knowing where to buy things that may or are not your problem. This is one of those things, I mean, you got the answer handed to you on a platter, and you're still just like stuck in this idea that I read on an internet forum that this is probably what the problem is, and I want to fix just that. You moron. And the problem with that type of mentality, the whole idea with that mentality and that culture of thinking of like, of taking like this solution and just putting it onto this problem without even trying to understand the problem is what gets a lot of people in trouble. So let's go over some of the fuckery that happened on this MacBook Pro board over here. I will be doing some measurements. Let me just get a screen so I can plug it in. And we're going to go over what you should do if you actually want to solve the problem without being an idiot like the jackass in this one thread. So let me just find the screen that I can use for testing purposes. We're going to get a screen. If I'm lucky, I'll even find the screen cable. Okay, here we go. I got a screen and I got a screen cable. Now I'm going to measure around a little bit, and I'm going to give you some of the measurements at some of the different points, and hopefully some of you guys can guess what's going on with it. I'm 99% certain that I already know what's going on with it. As I said, I like to do these videos live, so there's a good chance that I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, you will get to see me look like an idiot and eat my words at the end of this. There are a lot of videos where I think I'm on the right track, and I am just by the end of it so fucking wrong. It's awfully embarrassing, and I never have the good sense to not upload the video. I always upload the video, even when I wind up looking like a complete idiot. Okay, so we're going to plug this in, and let me just get set up to start with my measurements. It would be very helpful if I had a DC-in board on my desk. My receptionist has been out all week, and because of that, I've had to do a lot of the regular stuff that I usually give to her. And one of the things I noticed is I give her a lot of the stuff that I really don't want to do. I had no appreciation. I had some. I really didn't have a right appreciation of just how much work she does. I mean, every single iPad screen, every single iPhone screen, every single shipment, every single login, inventory, every single reassembly and disassembly of stuff that I just don't feel like touching. I mean, I appreciate what she does a lot. And so much stuff did not get done the way I wanted it to this week since she was on vacation. But that's a vacation that she earned. I think I actually took the screws out and I left the DC-in board inside the computer. I left the DC-in board inside the computer. Like, for all you people who look up to me and think I know everything, you should watch some of this and just really get it into your head just how fucking dumb I am. Okay, so we're going to plug this in. Let's get started on the measurements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the schematic. So right over here at the backlight fuse, let's turn my multimeter to voltage mode. With the black probe on the fuse, I get 12 volts. Now I know I'm going to get 12 volts on the other side of the fuse. I know for a fact that I'm going to get 12 volts on the other side of the fuse because this is what Genius decided to do to it. We got no backlight, which means that the backlight fuse must be jumped. Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. The first step that you should do, you shouldn't check for a short to ground. You shouldn't check for... There's no need to check for things of that nature. There's no need to make sure everything else in your circuit works. First thing you want to do is listen to the internet telling you you're going to jump your fuse. let's go back to the rest of the circuit here. So let's plug my screen back in. Let's get my DC in board plugged in, make sure this thing turns on. Now we're going to measure at backlight enable. So BKLEN right over here. So see where there's this enable tab that has these two resistors. This is a voltage divider. So what this does is, see this transistor over here? The way this whole thing works is this is 12 volts that powers the backlight circuit. And if these signals are present when they're supposed to be, the way that this is going to work, or present or not present when they're not supposed to. So the way this works is when these signals are present, the voltage that's going over here to Q9706's gate is going to get lowered by this voltage divider. What's going to happen here is that when you have 5 volts on this gate instead of 12 volts, being a P-type FET, what's going to happen is it's going to let the power through to the rest of the circuit. Now, once that power gets let through to the rest of the circuit, see backlight, LCD backlight per over here goes to this voltage divider of R9731 and R9715, where that 12 volts then gets turned into 3 volts, which is what's needed to turn the backlight enable pin on. So that backlight enable pin needs to see 3 volts there, or else it won't know to turn the circuit on. It won't actually get the thing to start boosting. So over there, I have 3 volts. So that means that this voltage divider is working. The chip is being told to turn on. And that must mean that I have 12 volts on the other side of this transistor. Obviously, this transistor is opening because that transistor is what brings power over here. So again, the way this works, this here, when you see one resistor between a high voltage and a source and another resistor between that source and ground, that's a voltage divider. Its purpose is to make a higher voltage into a lower voltage. This over here, see this? This is a voltage divider. It's the same shit again. You're making this voltage into a lower one. However, whether or not this bottom resistor here gets to see ground is dependent on this transistor. So this transistor, which is actually a package of 2 transistors in one, is not going to open and let this bottom resistor see ground without these 2 signals present. This voltage divider is not going to work. This 12 volts will still be 12 volts over here unless these signals come through. Once these signals come through, this 12 volts gets turned into 5 volts, and this 12 volts, once turned into 5 volts, will allow this to open. This is a P-type transistor. Again, go back to the What is a Transistor video, where every single electronics engineer in the world decided to come and shit-can all the advice I was giving because I tried to make it simple, and I called a transistor a resistor, even though it's not a linear device, and blah, blah, blah. We don't give a fuck about that right now. We're talking about a laptop circuit. What's going on here is when you have a P-type FET like this one, this will open and let power through when the voltage on the gate is lower than the power on the source. So over here, you have the source. Over here, you have the drain. When the power over here is lower than what's on the source, it's going to let everything through. It's going to turn into a 0-ohm resistor. It's going to turn into a wire. It's going to turn into whatever the fuck it is you people want to call that who like to troll everything I say. I don't care. And when there is nothing over there, you can consider this a cut wire, an infinite ohm resistor, or whatever it is that makes you happy. It's a switch, it's a resistor, it's a transistor, it's a gate, it's a FET, whatever the fuck you want to call it. When you have 5 volts over here, you will have backlight. When you have 12 volts over there, you'll have no backlight. Anyway, so my backlight enable signal is there. Now I'm going to use the oscilloscope to see if my backlight PWM signal is there. My backlight PWM signal over here is what's actually going to do tell it what brightness. So backlight enable over here is going to say, okay, turn on the boost circuit, but backlight PWM, what that's going to do is it sends a little pulse, and that pulse, that way the pulse looks is going to be dependent on your brightness setting. So that sets the brightness. Without that pulse, even if you have backlight enable there, you're not going to get anything. And when I measure over there, I get a nice pulse. So that's there. Now what I want to do is I want to measure the voltage at the actual output of the circuit. So what is this circuit outputting at the end? And I have 12, which is not boosted. So everything's doing what it's supposed to here. For the most part, everything is doing what it's supposed to, but there's nothing on the output, and that's kind of sad. So what I want to do is I want to show you what makes me really, really sad about this computer. So what somebody did, instead of decide to use their brain and think and try to figure out what's going on, what they decided to do is they decided that they were going to do one of the worst things you can do on the internet. Again, if you, by the way, if you want to learn how to do shit like this, let me show you again. They did something like this. I'm sure that some crap like this is what influences it when you see shit like this, like that has 1.2 million views, just taking a fucking heat gun. And this is what's wrong with the internet, by the way. Look at this. This here is what is wrong with the internet. You see this over here? That is not how you fix a motherboard. This is not how you fix shit. This is how you fuck shit up. That is not the right way to fix anything. Ignore the fucking internet. When you look at all these websites that are talking about how to fix these problems and what is wrong, ignore them when they tell you to do that. So this is what this person fucking did. You see this shit? Let's get the zoom all the way out and look at this. Look at this. Okay. So see that? That is a bunch of flux around the CPU, which jackass heat gunned. And then right over here around the PCH, that's also a bunch of flux coming out of the PCH, which jackass heat gunned. And then over here to the rest of the chipset, this is more of what jackass heat gunned. So again, did the CPU, PCH, and that have anything to do with this having no backlight? No. All you get from the PCH, the only fucking responsibility that the PCH has over here, if you use your brain and you follow the circuit and you're not a monkey that decides to simply fucking take a heat gun and reflow shit because you don't know how a circuit works and because you read it on the internet, that sounds like what you're supposed to do, is you would see that if LCD backlight enable and backlight platform reset are present and that those two signals come from the PCH is fine. If you have an image on the screen, the PCH is fine. If you have an image going to your screen, that means that the integrated graphics in your CPU is doing the processing it's supposed to, and the PCH is sending the proper signals to the backlight circuit to turn it on. Don't heat gun it, even if it was broken, even if the PCH or the CPU were bad. For fuck's sake, sticking flux under crap and heating it up is not how you fix a laptop motherboard. But I digress. Let's go on and try to figure out what's actually wrong with the circuit. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off this clusterfuck mess in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we will come back to this later. All right, so we're back to this no backlight board here. When I turn it on, here's what I get and what I notice. So my voltage that I'm getting on my output of backlight is slowly rising from 0 volts up to 9 or 10. Now what I want to do here is I want to see where the voltage drop occurs, because remember, this circuit is based on 12 volts. This circuit comes from 12.6 volts, PP bus G3 hot. So I want to see where it is that's being lowered. Actually, at my inductor, I only have... So let me show you what I notice. I'm going to go over to the schematic over here. Let me just open the right schematic, because this is the schematic for a different model motherboard that I was just working on a second ago. So we're going to go over to U9701, since that's the backlight circuit, and I'm going to go over what I most likely believe to be the problem. All right, so this here is the backlight circuit. So the fuse was jumped, again, idiot behavior. So over here, I have 12.6 volts coming through. PP bus G3 hot, you'll see in the list of power rails, is a 12.6 volt power rail that everything in the machine runs off of. Now, this is being told to open, but through here, I don't have my voltage. Sometimes I have 12, sometimes I have 2, sometimes I have 5. So this is not opening the way. So what I'm noticing is, all right, so this is my backlight circuit, and here's what I'm noticing over here. So the backlight's fuse over here was jumped by a moron. Now, at the output of this transistor over here, I have 12.6 volts, so it is opening. I am getting everything I needed, as I said before, but at the end of the circuit, I'm getting something like 0 volts. Sometimes I have 2 volts, sometimes I have 3 volts. I'm not really getting what I want, and I don't have a short. So what I'm looking for here is where the disconnect is. So over here, I have 12 volts, and right over here. But over here, I don't. I have that whole nonsense of that's raising and going up and down. It's going maybe sometimes 2, sometimes 10, sometimes 12, sometimes 0. So one of two things is happening. Either my LP8550 is malfunctioning and sending that to ground when it should not be going to ground, or the internal board via between PP bus, SW, LCD backlight per. I know I have a kitty, so I like to think of it in terms of my kitty cat, so I say per instead of power. Going to L9701 here is broken. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wire and I'm going to go from here to here, and we're going to see if that fixes my problem. And keep in mind that somebody actually saw fit to heat gun the CPU, the PCH, and the rest of the other chipset next to it, whose name escapes me right now. That's how I know that I need to go home and I forget the name of the basic fucking chipset on a board that I work on every damn day of my life. But let's get going and let's fix this shit so I can go home. Oh, this is the thing with this fucking monkey see, monkey do bullshit. Why figure out the actual problem? Right, so it looks like Jackass was on the case here, because you can see that he solder blobbed something here. So, Jackass was on the case. He did know that his problem was coming through something having to do with there. So, I mean, I guess after he heat gunned half of the fucking board, he started to get a clue. And here's the thing about with ignorance versus stupidity. I have no qualms with ignorance. Everybody doesn't know things. I mean, really, look at how ignorant I am. I didn't even fucking know the name of this wire that I use and love, this stuff that's insulated through and through, but really, really thin. I didn't even know what this is called until a week and a half ago, and I've been doing this for years. I mean, really. There's no excuse. There's no problem with not knowing something. There are a lot of people that don't know things, and I have the greatest sympathy for you. But when the resources are out there, and you know that you don't know something, and you do something stupid anyway, then your ignorance has now become stupidity. So that post that I read in the beginning that came from a forum, and I bet you can guess the name of it, where he's like, I don't care what's actually wrong. I replace what I want to replace. Like little crybaby shit. That's stupidity. Because he has the answer key right in front of him, like a little fucking one-page answer key where I've written exactly what to check, exactly what you should measure, exactly what should be there. And instead, he wants to do it himself and fuck it up by replacing shit that never breaks. All right, so 1, 2, 5, and 6. So I'm going to run a little line from there. I'm going to support that. So where's pin? I'm just going to look for pins 1, 2, 5, and 6 up here. All right, and I'm going to run that wire to the beginning of my inductor. Now I'm half asleep, so I really, really hope that I remember to run it to the backlight coil and not the T29 Thunderbolt coil, because that will result in some real sadness from myself, this motherboard, and this customer. Also, extra credit if I remember to put a fucking fuse where the jumped fuse is. This dumbass decided that he was going to jump the fuse. That's always what you should do when you have no backlight. Don't think, don't measure, don't use your brain. Let's just jump things. I wish things could actually work, just not having to think. Because having to think, it really does take a lot out of me. Hey, put some fresh solder over there. Whoa, I did a bad job there. As usual, anything related to soldering, I suck. And that is hopeless now, so I might as well just remove it and start over. That was awful. It's time for Lewis to go home now. Okay. Time for me to go. Those ones that you say are shorted, they can stay shorted. I don't give a shit because they're supposed to be. That's okay. How the hell am I gonna fit this inside there? The answer is I'm not. So let's remove the backlight coil. I'm trying to get really big shit off. Instead of going from the top, I go from the side. There we go. Put that on the desk. Let's try and do the right thing here and not combine the leaded and the lead-free solder. Solder. Saudar. Solder. See if I can piss off some trolls some more with my pronunciations. I'm going to start calling it Sador. Just to drive people nuts. Soda. I saw her. Soda. Soda. All right. This is where my beautiful new wire comes in handy. Good auto adjust camera. Let's tin the ends of my wire. This is a bit more of a pain in the ass to work with than battery wire. I feel like I'm still going to use battery wire for the ultra small jumpers. By far easier to work with than this shit. Ah, I hate solder. Soda. God, I'm just going to keep pissing people off with that. I'm just going to say it like that to screw with you. Yeah, I made this wire too long. This is where I try to go all wishful thinking and see if I can strip it with heat. Like, I just scratch it with the iron? Wouldn't that be fucking amazing if just scratching the thing did it? Scratching it with a boiling, sharp piece of metal? I mean, if this can scrape the crap off of the board, it can definitely open up this wire. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's put some flux on there because what I did is I kept reheating the solder without adding new flux. I'm sorry, the soda. The fucking soda. I want to hear how they would pronounce solder. Solder and the Sopranos. That fucking soda. I'll show you how we pronounce it where we come from, motherfucker. Oh, man. Funny. Look. And that fuse. This. You know what I really got to see here? I want to see if that fuse is even blown. Because if that fuse beeps right now without the wire going over it, I will laugh until the end. Okay, fuse is blown. I just thought, with the level of idiocy that was present here, there was a good chance that somebody jumped a working fuse. That's my lazy wishful thinking right there. All right, let's see what happens when I try to plug this in and turn this on. There you go. Remember, as I showed in the other video, my enable signals are there, my PWM signal is there. My diode mode measurement to ground on the relevant spot measures just fine. I'm just going to check and make sure there's no short to ground before I plug in my screen, and there isn't. So let's see what happens when I plug this in. What do I get? Backlight. No, we don't heat gun the CPU and the PCH and I think the HM55 and then jumper over the fuse and do all that stupid shit when all you need to do is run a wire. And that's the thing. Like you say, I want to fix the way I want to fix, right? I want to repair the way I want to repair. Well, guess what, motherfucker? It ain't fixed if it don't work. You get to call it repair. You get to call it fix. If the actual product at the end of it can actually turn on and be used. If it does not work and it cannot be guaranteed to work for a good period of time, shit ain't fixed, so don't call it that. And again, I know it's cool to replace a component. Everybody wants the simple solution. They want to have a solution to their problem that is the same as everybody else's. Who needs to think when you can just click on a little post and it just says, oh, this is exactly what you need to do, and it's going to be the exact same for everybody who has this exact same problem. No, there is no shortcut around thinking. There is no shortcut around using your brain if you want to get anything done in electronics or anything done in the tech profession. There isn't. And this is simple, basic shit, too. This is not like setting up large networks or large systems or large security systems or the things that make you real money. So if you can't get shit working with this basic bullshit of like reviving $400 or $500 systems for people, then how do you expect to actually move up in the world and start doing anything else with your life, really? Because people are amazed that I'm able to do this. And I don't understand what you're amazed at. Like, I look at people who are setting up the security systems for the building where the World Trade Center used to be, and who are setting up the security systems for that. I'm like, wow, that's something I'm impressed with. This whole, like running a wire to fix a computer that's worth like $600, that's not impressive to me. It really isn't. And I see that as a skill, or setting up those large-scale networks or doing things of that nature, as far more impressive than this stuff. But again, if you can't get this right, how do you expect to actually move up in the tech profession and do anything else of worth? Because all those other professions and all those other echelons of IT, you need to be using your brain. You don't get to just apply this little solution that I read over here, posted by some fuckwit who doesn't know what he's talking about, and apply it to your problem. And I know that people replacing people just want the solution that's right there in front of them, that's easy. But you have to use your brain. You really have to use your brain. And everybody wants to replace a fuse. They want to replace the backlight driver. They want to replace the boost transistor, because that just, I really honestly believe that they want to do that because that sounds cool. It's not cool to run a wire between this and that. It's not cool to have to think. It's not cool to have to actually measure at each point to try to figure out what's wrong. But again, this board here, I'm not going to be able to warranty this. I'm not going to be able to provide a real legitimate warranty on something where somebody heat gunned every single BGA chip on a board that's 4 years old. And that sucks. But that is what it is. You know, again, people say having incomplete or incorrect information is better than having no information. And to that, I call bullshit, because again, this would have been put in a pile, it would have been disposed of, and then it would have went to some liquidation company, or it would have got sold somewhere where somebody like me would have bought it, and I would have fixed it properly so that this thing could last another 5 or 10 years. Instead, using improper information found on the internet, somebody decided to just heat up a bunch of shit. And now this is a board that probably will work for another 3 or 4 months before you start seeing green fuzzies on the screen from the Intel HD 2500 or 3000 graphics not working, or it'll start beeping because the CPU or the PCH is fucked up, or it'll just start freezing for no reason. Because again, Somebody decided to heat gun it, and that's not how you fix motherboards. So that's that. Again, there's no easy solution. What you have to do is you have to have an understanding of how a circuit works, and then use your brain. And when you use your brain, you'll figure out that you can make money, you can solve problems, and you can have things that work, and people will ask for your opinion, people will ask for your input, people will go to hire you, people will want to work for you. But when you don't use your brain, nobody's really going to give a fuck about you. Just saying.